You are presenting a paper on intracranial hypertension secondary to subserosal fibroid.
Yes.
Is that so?
Good morning, everyone. I am going to present a case of idiopathic intracranial hypertension secondary to subserosal fibroid. So my patient, 47 years old female from Ganjam, Odisha, came with a complaint of blurring of vision in both eyes with frontal headache since 2 months. She had a history of intermittent syncopal attack and menorrhagia for 3 months. On general examination, there was extensive pallor and mild to moderate pedal edema. BMI was 32.5 kg per meter square. Then the patient was referred to physician and gynecologist and was diagnosed with having anemia with dysfunctional uterine bleeding. Then she was advised with some laboratory investigation and ultrasound abdomen. On ophthalmological examination, best corrected visual acuity was 612 parts in the right eye and 69 in left eye. Other anterior segment findings were within normal limit. On fundus examination, both eye, it showed papilledema with multiple hemorrhages and rod spot. Humphrey's visual field analysis 24-2 of both the eyes showed enlarged blind spot. OCT RNFL of both the eyes showed severe disc edema with 360-degree RNFL edema. Contrast enhanced MRI brain and orbit, T2 wetted axial scan showed flattening of the posterior sclera with dilated perioptic space and enlarged optic nerve sheath diameter. On T1 wetted sagittal scan, it showed partial empty sella, which was suggestive of raised intracranial pressure. MR venogram with contrast was showing hypoplastic right transverse sinus. Hemoglobin was 4.6 gram percentage. Peripheral smear showed microcytic hypochromic anemia. CSF opening pressure was high, that is 300 mm of water. Ultrasound abdomen and pelvis showed large subserosal fibroid. So based on the clinical examination, lab investigation and radiological examination, we came to a final diagnosis of idiopathic intracranial hypertension secondary to anemia due to menorrhagia caused by subserosal fibroid with anemic retinopathy. She was managed with 3 units of blood transfusion, then she underwent hysterectomy, and along with she was given oral iron supplements and carbonic anhydrase inhibitors. At 1 month of follow-up, she was symptomatically better and her hemoglobin was raised to 11 gram percentage. So idiopathic intracranial hypertension is mainly a syndrome of elevated intracranial pressure without any identifiable brain pathology and with normal CSF composition. Subserosal fibroid causing iron deficiency anemia has a rare association with idiopathic intracranial hypertension. Various types of anemia like hemolytic, iron deficiency anemia and aplastic anemia is associated with idiopathic intracranial hypertension. Anemia induces changes in the hemodynamics which ultimately will lead to raised ICP. So iron is considered as a regulator of thrombopoiesis which inhibits the rise of the platelet count and it prevents the hypercoagulable state. So the clinical features of iron deficiency are like headache, postural dizziness, syncopal episode, nausea, vomiting and exertional dyspnea. So anemia will cause hypercoagulable state which mainly causes arterial and venous thrombosis and leads to abnormal blood flow pattern and reduced deformability and increased viscosity of the blood cell. There is also reactive thrombocytosis which causes increased venous pressure and decreased rate of absorption of CSF. This all will ultimately leads to raised intracranial pressure. So in my case, there is presence of idiopathic intracranial hypertension with iron deficiency anemia is rare. Presence of subserosal fibroid causing iron deficiency anemia and IIH is extremely rare. So the role of ophthalmologist in meticulous history taking, thorough systemic evaluation along with ophthalmological examination is very important to arrive at a diagnosis, which signifies evaluate the patient as a whole, not the eyes only. So my take-home message will be, clinicians should be aware of the iron deficiency anemia as a rare but important association in patients with idiopathic intracranial hypertension. So the workup of the patient with raised ICP sign should include full blood count, appropriate hematinics include iron studies, especially in the patient where there is no other risk factor for IIH. So a thorough systemic evaluation and proper lab investigation helped us as arriving at the correct diagnosis. These are my references. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Swami Shri, for sticking to time. Do you think there could have been any other reason? Because severe anemia leading to intracranial hypertension, that is rather a far-fetched association.
Sir, actually, anemia is a risk factor which can be associated with IIH. It's not a cause which will cause IIH. Like, it's a risk factor.
No, because severe anemia is something which is very commonly seen in the society.
Yes, sir.
And we don't come across intracranial hypertension directly associated with it.
Yes, sir. Sir, it's a risk factor.
So you can have so many risk factors. There could have been any other association which you might have missed.
Sir, actually, the patient presented with pallor and pedal edema and breathlessness, all these things. So then we did ophthalmological examination. There was papilledema with multiple hemorrhages and rod spots. So we suspected there is anemic retinopathy with papilledema.
So
Then
there
we
was-
sent for that gynecological evaluation. So there it was diagnosed as subserosal fibroid.
So there was a reversal of symptoms by simply transfusing blood.
Yes, sir. By blood transfusion, then the hemoglobin was increased to 8 and 8. Then she underwent hysterectomy and was given oral iron supplements and carbonic anhydrase inhibitor, where her symptoms was relieved. And at 1 month follow-up, hemoglobin was raised, and she was symptomatically better.
Okay.
Maybe you could change the, one is that, you know, why would you call it IIH?
Ma'am, because anemia is not a cause for intracranial hypertension. Ma'am, it's a association, like it's a risk factor for this thing. It's not directly causing this thing.
I mean, you have an etiology, so it's not idiopathic. So either one of the two is correct. Either it's idiopathic or you're attributing anemia as a cause to it.
Yes, ma'am. Like anemia was a risk factor for causing this thing because she was coming in that category of IAH. She was obese. She was in a reproductive age. She was young, and there was no other.
So
cause.
maybe it was a
And-
chance association. Maybe it was a chance association.
Yes, sir. So because MRI features were also suggestive of IAH.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So maybe it's an association.
Yes, ma'am.
It may not be. So the title when you're saying secondary to, so I think it's in a case of, you know, chronic anemia would be better, more appropriate, because you're not able to prove that it's secondary to that. So it's a,
Ma'am, like subserosal fibroid mainly caused TUB and there was anemia for that thing.
okay, all right, thank you.